Discover the incredible heartwarming journey of a cleaner who changed a paralyzed millionaire's life. In the heart of Chicago, where skyscrapers kissed the sky and the streets hummed with life, Clara worked tirelessly as a janitor in a towering office building. Each night, she scrubbed and polished while dreaming of brighter days for her 8-year-old daughter, Mia. Clara's life revolved around providing for her little girl, whose laughter was like music that melted the hard edges of their reality. She clung to the American belief that hard work would pave the way for dreams to come true. But as she scrubbed floors, she felt the weight of judgment from society pressing down on her. They couldn't see the depths of her determination, they just saw a single mother struggling to make ends meet. One fateful evening, as Clara tidied the vast emptiness of the reclusive millionaire Jack's office, a fire ignited within her. It was there, amidst the gleaming desks and lavish decor, that she discovered something sinister. Jack's advisors were skimming funds off his fortune, trust betrayed by those closest to him. Clara felt her heart race as indignation coursed through her veins. This wasn't just about money, it was about someone being taken advantage of, just like she had felt so many times. Fighting against the fear that gripped her, she considered her choices. What if they found out? What if she lost her job? But looking at Mia's picture on her phone, Clara felt a spark of courage ignite. Guided by the raw strength that came from desperation, she resolved to expose the foul play. The moment she confronted the advisors, her chest tightened. The room charged with tension, her heart raced, a fight for justice, a fight for her daughter's future. But as Clara laid bare the deception, their threats loomed over her like storm clouds. In an explosive confrontation, her job disappeared in a cascade of screaming voices and crystal promises broken. "Mom, what's happening?" Mia asked later, her big eyes filled with confusion. Clara struggled to explain the gravity of their situation. The shadows in their small apartment felt heavier now. Mia's small hands clutched her mother's, searching for assurance. It was more than survival now, it was about pride, about staying true to oneself. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Unexpectedly, Jack learned of Clara's bravery. For a man trapped in luxury yet paralyzed by his own life choices, her fierce resolve breathed new life into him. He reached out, a glimmer of redemption across the vast chasm of his privilege. "I can help you," he said softly. The weight of desperation hung in the air, the tiniest flame of hope flickering. Now, Clara faced a new dilemma. Taking Jack's help might sacrifice her unwavering integrity, but could it also be the key to a new beginning? With Mia's innocent gaze resting on her, the question loomed large. Tension loomed, hopes surged, doubts clouded. What would Clara choose? Would she rise above the tide of defeat, or would she be dragged under? The answers hung just out of reach, the stakes higher than ever. Clara stared into Jack's eyes, searching for any hint of deception behind his offer. The soft light of the office illuminated the desperation etched on her face, mingling with the weight of her decision. Mia's innocent smile flashed before her, reminding her of all the reasons she had fought so hard. Could she risk it all again? "Help me," Clara spoke at last, her voice shaky yet determined. "But not just for me. You have to understand what's at stake for my daughter." Jack leaned in, nodding solemnly. "I get it. You're right, you're fighting for her. We're in this together. You showed courage today, and I admire that." A flicker of hope ignited within Clara. She felt a warmth spread through her chest. Maybe this wasn't just about survival anymore. Maybe, just maybe, they could work together for something greater than themselves. Days passed, and Clara found herself in an unusual partnership with Jack. He introduced her to his world, a landscape of draping curtains and crystal chandeliers, but it still felt foreign and intimidating. Despite the opulence, Clara noticed shadows in Jack's demeanor. He was more than just a millionaire, he was a man burdened with regret. They huddled over stacks of papers, piecing together the corruption that had ensnared him. "Your instincts were right, Clara," Jack admitted one late evening, frustration evident in his furrowed brow. "These advisors they've used me as a puppet. It's time to take back control." Clara nodded, feeling a fierce sense of purpose awakening within her. She wasn't alone anymore. Together, they strategized to reclaim Jack's company and expose the deceit that threatened to drown him. As days turned into weeks, Clara and Jack's bond deepened. He respected her intuition and even more, her relentless drive for a better life. She began to glance at him not just as a client but as a friend. The laughter shared over late-night strategies was a balm for the seriousness of their mission. However, the tension never dissipated entirely. Clara found herself waking in the middle of the night, her heart pounding at the thought of the advisors retaliating. The threats loomed over her like dark clouds, and some nights she could almost feel their malevolence breathing down her neck. "Mom," Mia said one evening, looking up from her homework with wide eyes. "You're working so much. Are you okay?" Clara knelt down, tucking a piece of hair behind Mia's ear. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just trying to make things better for us. It's all gonna be worth it." But was it? As she watched her daughter's hopeful smile, a pang of guilt settled in her heart, slicing through her determination. What if she failed? With the final confrontation with Jack's advisors looming ahead, Clara needed to decide whether to embrace the fear or let it paralyze her. Lies had twisted her life into knots, but could truth set her free? The answers felt as tangled as the city streets below. But as she drove through downtown Chicago, the glowing cityscape before her reminded her of what they were fighting for. An urgent question echoed in her mind: were they willing to risk everything for the sake of justice, or would climbing this mountain lead to a treacherous fall? With the stakes higher than ever, Clara took a breath, ready to step into the fight of her life. Clara stood at the edge of Jack's sprawling office, the city skyline gleaming through the tall windows behind him. The weight of their mission pressed down like a heavy cloud, but a new fire sparked in her chest. They were on the brink of gathering the evidence they needed, and somehow, despite the looming dangers, hope glimmered just ahead. "Tomorrow's the big day," Jack said, pulling her back from her thoughts. The urgency in his voice matched the pounding of her heart. "We present everything to the board. If we can just convince them of the corruption, we can get them replaced." Her throat felt dry. "And if they don't listen, Jack? What if they turn on us?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. "Then we go public. We take everything to the media. The truth is on our side." The thought made Clara's stomach churn. She could already picture Mia's face, innocently unaware of the storm brewing just below the surface of their lives. "I can't risk anything happening to her, Jack. I can't." Jack reached for her hand, sending a current of warmth through her. "We'll keep her safe, I promise. This is about a future worth fighting for, not just for you and me, but for her too." As they locked eyes, Clara felt a surge of determination. She was reminded of how far she had come, how many sleepless nights had led her here. Days spent debating how to navigate this treacherous path, all for Mia's future. She had to believe the fight was worth every ounce of fear that coursed through her. The next morning felt charged with electricity. Clara and Jack entered the boardroom, the polished mahogany table gleaming, intimidating. Faces turned toward them, filled with skepticism and doubt. Clara's pulse quickened. The board members had been part of the corruption that plagued Jack's company, and exposing them wouldn't be easy. With trembling hands, Jack presented their evidence. Charts and documents spread out like a mosaic of betrayal. Clara watched the expressions of the board members shift, calculating and defensive. Hope mingled with anxiety in climactic waves. "Just a moment," one of the advisors said, rising from his seat. His voice dripped with condescension. You think you can come in here and turn the tide? You're a cleaner, Clara. What could you possibly understand about corporate tactics? A chill swept through Clara. The structure of power in the room pushed hard against her. But she clenched her fists. I understand enough, she replied, her voice steady, fueled by the fire inside her. I understand what it's like to fight for everything you love. Jack looked at her, a mixture of pride and awareness that this was her moment. Clara took a breath, speaking louder now, feeling the energy shift. This isn't just about Jack. It's about honesty, integrity, and the lives you've ruined. Not just yours, but the people who believe in your company, who work hard every day like me. We deserve better. The silence hung heavy. For a heartbeat, she felt the power shift. The disbelief of the board members painted on their faces seemed to crack, revealing uncertainty underneath. But just as the tide turned, her phone buzzed violently. A text message from Mia lit up the screen. I miss you, Mom. Are you coming home? Clara's heart dropped. Every word echoed around her like a haunting reminder of her real life waiting outside the boardroom. Would she ever get back to that life without losing everything? Jack's voice drew her back, but the impending confrontation loomed larger as new figures entered the room, members of the board she had yet to meet, their expressions hard and intent. This isn't over, Clara thought, steeling herself for the fight. Would they dismiss her again, or was there a route to redemption on the horizon? With her mind swirling, Clara took another breath. It was time to make a choice. To either embrace the fear or let it consume her completely. As she prepared to step into the fray once more, a pivotal truth pulsed through her veins. She had to fight not just for Jack, but for Mia, and for herself too. But the deeper question now remained, would they break through, or would the darkness surrounding them snuff out their flickering light? In the face of rising stakes, Clara realized she was standing at a crossroads. Which path would she choose? The atmosphere in the boardroom thickened as Clara weighed her options. She glanced at Jack, his brows furrowed with worry. The tension was palpable, fingers drumming nervously on the table, exchanging whispers and glances that felt like daggers aimed straight at her heart. I know the truth is on our side, she reminded herself, the mantra ringing quietly in her mind. But that wasn't enough. It wasn't just about facts. This was about people. The stakes were no longer purely corporate, they were deeply personal. Let us hear your thoughts, Clara, the advisor said, crossing his arms, waiting for her to stumble. What do you think you can offer that isn't already out in the open? Gathering her courage, she leaned into the table, steadying herself. I might be a cleaner, but I see the aftermath of what you all destroy. It's families, workers, children, people like my daughter Mia. You may think your decisions only affect your profit margins, but they damage lives. I've spent years cleaning up messes, but this one needs more than a broom. Her voice rose, a fire igniting. It needs accountability. It needs you to look at the people behind the numbers. The company isn't just a building. It's made up of people who trust you to do right by them. The words were like arrows, aimed at their hearts. Clara could see the momentary flicker of doubt in their rigid faces. The advisor shifted uncomfortably, but the others remained unmoved, cold and calculated. We don't change overnight because of a sentimental speech. Then let me show you what your decisions lead to. Clara motioned to the presentation slides. Look at this. Do you even bother to see how far-reaching the effects of your choices are? How many jobs were lost while you still profited? Clara's heart raced. She felt the room's energy shift, just a little, nudging her closer to where she needed to be. I'm fighting for more than just improving a company's image. I'm fighting for my daughter's future and the futures of every person you've trampled upon. It's about time someone held this company accountable. Heavy silence followed her declaration. She could almost hear the ticking clock, counting down the seconds for both them and her. Jack and the board members exchanged glances, some were whispering, others fidgeting in their chairs. Then another board member spoke up, someone Clara hadn't seen before. This is serious. If we ignore these claims, we risk not just our company but everything we've built. Are you ready to back this up with solid evidence, or is this just talk? Clara squared her shoulders, the tension in her body firming up into resolve. I can back it up. With every document I gathered. With every email chain I exposed. Her heart raced with the challenge, a rush of adrenaline fueling her next words. But more importantly, I can back it up with truth, the kind of truth that cannot be ignored anymore, no matter how loudly you shout. As that bold proclamation hung in the air, she caught a quick glimpse of hope in Jack's eyes. That flicker felt like a lifeline, pulling her through the sea of doubt that had almost swallowed her whole, but just when she thought she had them cornered, a loud commotion from the entrance disrupted her thoughts. The doors swung open, and in barged a horde of reporters, cameras flashing like an ambush under the bright lights. What is happening? Clara's thoughts spiraled as the reporters stormed in, waving their microphones, demanding answers. Are you ready for the fallout? Jack muttered beside her, his voice strained. Clara's pulse hammered in her ears. They had wanted to go public, but this? It seemed they had lost control. The very thing they hoped to avert had now crashed into their reality. As layers of fear and bewilderment washed over her, Clara's resolve materialized again like a breath of fresh air. This was the moment. She couldn't waver now. For Mia. For Jack. For the truth hovering just out of reach. With the cameras trained on her, she took a deep breath, feeling the weight but standing taller. Yes, I'm ready, she whispered to herself. And as those words left her lips, the respect of the board members teetered beneath her. Just how far was she willing to fight? Would this chaotic turn of events strengthen her conviction or unravel everything she had worked for? The flood of emotions surged within her as she faced the reporters with determination. Would this prove to be a new beginning, or the beginning of the end? The noise was overwhelming. Cameras flashed like fireworks, deafening questions ricocheted off the boardroom walls, and Clara felt every heartbeat pulsing through her veins. The reporters hungry for a story swarmed her like bees drawn to honey, their faces straining for a glimpse of her fear and determination. Clara, do you believe you can change the company's path? Shouted one journalist, his voice cutting through the chaos. Why should these business leaders listen to you? Another asked, skepticism dripping from his tone. Clara's heart thudded. She locked eyes with Jack, who was now standing, adjusting his tie, looking as cornered as she felt. But she couldn't falter. Not now. She had come this far. Because I'm not just a cleaner, she replied, her voice steadying as she focused on the eye in the storm. One reporter with a kind face. I'm a mother. And I'm fighting for a better future for my daughter and all the families affected by this company's decisions. That seemed to pause the frenzy, if only for a moment. The crowd softened, the noise dimmed as the focus shifted to the weight of her words. She felt the energy in the room pulse as people realized it wasn't just about numbers, but real lives hanging in the balance. What proof do you have? Came another voice, urgent but softer now. Clara took a breath. I've collected testimonies from those who've lost their jobs. I've documented the effects of layoffs, the damage to families. I can show you this pain, what it looks like, who it impacts. She pointed to her slides, her heart racing with the passion of each family she met, their struggles etched in her memory. She had driven hours to gather stories, sneaking in and out of lives that were now at the mercy of decisions that felt cold and detached. Maybe it's easier to ignore the consequences when you don't see the people they affect, Clara continued, her voice rising, capturing the attention of even the most hardened board members. But I see them. Every day, people come into work only to learn they are losing everything overnight. At the mention of loss, a shadow crossed Jack's face. He seemed to have an unspoken understanding of what was at stake. They were in this together, both fighting for a cause much bigger than themselves. Clara felt connected to him, and the bonds of mutual struggle only added fuel to her determination. We have to stop turning a blind eye, she implored, the urgency of her plea evident. These people deserve a chance to speak. Their voices deserve to be heard, just like mine. A murmur rippled through the audience. The realization that a cleaner could command such presence was palpable, like a whisper of possibility echoed in their hearts. One of the board members, the same one who had questioned her before, glanced at his colleagues. Maybe it's time we listen, a day late for some, but perhaps now is an opportunity for change. Clara's heart soared at that moment, but uncertainty loomed. Would they actually take her words to heart? Or were they simply buying time, nodding with feigned interest while planning to shut her down as soon as reporters left? Before she could find her footing, sudden tension returned. Another voice boomed across the crowd, this one distinct and commanding. Well, then, what if I told you that it's too late for change? The entrance to the boardroom darkened as the owner of the company made his way through the throng. Clara's pulse quickened. His presence could crush everything she had risked. Would his cold dismissal undermine her fight entirely? Or could it awaken something even more powerful inside of her? The eyes of the room narrowed in on them both, tension mounting. The owner would have the final say, and with him here, Clara realized that the future of her fight was swinging precariously in the balance. The owner strode into the room like a storm, his eyes sharp and calculating. Clara could feel the crowd's anticipation shift, a collective inhalation as they awaited the reckoning. All her courage felt like a flickering candle in the gust of his presence. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice gruff and commanding, while I appreciate the passion displayed here today, we must remember that we are not in the business of charity. He turned slightly, dismissing Clara with a wave of his hand. This company has a bottom line, and we can't afford to let sentiment cloud our judgment. Clara's heart sank. The room felt colder, the warmth of possibility dissipating quickly. But she couldn't stand down. She had already come too far and lost too much to let this moment slip away. With trembling hands, she clenched her fists at her sides, ready to fight back. But what about the people? She cried, her voice breaking through the tension. What about their lives? You can't just look at numbers and forget that these are families, just like mine. The desperation tinged her words, resonating with the people around her. Jack, still standing close by, leaned in slightly. Clara, he whispered, maybe we should. No. She snapped, silencing him with a glance. He didn't understand. This wasn't just about the company. It was bigger than both of them. She needed to make them see the truth, feel the urgency behind her words. The owner's brow furrowed. You think your heartfelt stories will change anything? This is business, Clara. We have shareholders to answer to, and they wouldn't understand your emotional appeal. As she looked around the room, something shifted within Clara. She saw the faces of concerned board members, and felt the weight of their uncertainty. Maybe they weren't as frozen as she thought. What if she could light a spark in them? What if she could shift their perception, even if just a little? A company is only as strong as its people, Clara continued, her tone steadying. When we take care of those who work for us, we succeed. Not just with profits, but with legacy. Are you willing to sacrifice lives for the sake of a balance sheet? Her words landed softly, like a feather weighed down by intention. She looked directly into the owner's eyes, holding his gaze, refusing to back down. You have the power to change lives. Think about your own legacy. What do you want to be remembered for? For a long moment, silence engulfed them. Clara could feel her heart racing wildly. Jack shot her a look of encouragement, his eyebrows raised, almost as though he believed they were closer to a breakthrough. Time will tell if I let you share your testimonies, the owner replied coolly, crossing his arms, still in control of the room. But I will not make decisions based on guilt or emotion. Disappointment shot through Clara like a dagger. Will you really stand there and accept that you're choosing profit over people? Is that all this company ever was? She felt the anger rise, her voice trembling now. The crowd shifted slightly, a subtle wave of murmurs beginning to rise again, a collective heartbeat creating an undercurrent of support. The owner hesitated, and for the first time, Clara saw a flicker of uncertainty cross his features. Was he truly unmoved, or was there some part of him wrestling with her words? As the air thickened with anticipation, Clara realized that she had one last card to play. You have a chance to show yourselves, to show everyone that this isn't just another company. It could be a beacon of hope. Just then, a bold voice from the back called out, "What if we support her? What if we fight for our people?" Clara turned to see one of her former co-workers, their eyes bright with determination. She felt a spark ignite within her, the hope blooming like a flower in spring. "More voices," she whispered, drawing strength from their collective courage. "This isn't just my fight, it's ours." The owner regarded the growing unrest in the crowd, his facade cracking slightly. "You think you can sway the discussion?" he challenged. "Together, we can," Clara replied, her voice gaining strength. The intensity of the moment spiraled, and she could feel the energy shifting in her favor. But clarity dawned on her. A part of this battle seemed to lie ahead, waiting for the moment to reveal itself. What would happen if, at the very heart of it all, those in power actually listened? Clara's heart raced faster as she wondered what moves they would make next. As the tension mounted higher than before, they were all waiting to see whether the boardroom would become a battlefield for change or retreat back into silence. The room vibrated with tension. Clara could feel it in her bones, the energy crackling like static electricity around her. The board members shifted in their seats, whispering nervously. Some were leaning forward, their curiosity piqued. Others had their heads down, fidgeting with pens. It was a mix of apprehension and curiosity, and Clara sensed it was now or never. "Look at the faces around you," she urged, motioning towards the workers present. "These are not just employees. They are people, mothers, fathers, daughters, and sons who rely on you to make the right choice." Her voice rang with conviction, and she took a step forward, directly facing the owner, who stood unyielding like a fortress. The flicker of doubt in his eyes seemed to pull at her, urging her to dig deeper. She had to maintain the momentum. "Imagine," she breathed, "if each one of us could change just one life for the better. What would that do to our stories? To our legacy? We have a chance to be heroes, real ones. Not just in our homes and communities, but in this very building." The murmurs grew louder, a gentle rumble that flowed across the crowd. Yes. The tide was shifting. She spotted Jack nodding, his eyes lighting up with encouragement. He was on her side now, and it gave her more strength. "Remember when the company was built on community?" Clara pressed on, her heart soaring with her words. "We had a vision, a mission that meant something. Now, we have to decide if we'll let greed take it all away." She paused for effect, letting each word hang in the air. The owner's jaw clenched at her boldness, but she could see cracks forming in his stoic facade. He was listening, even if he fought against it. "Why do we exist?" she challenged, glancing around at the faces once more. "To make profits or to make a difference? If we sell out now, we're telling everyone who believed in us that their lives don't matter." Suddenly, from the back, another colleague stood up, an older man who had worked with Clara for years. "She's right," he bellowed, fists clenched. "I've seen families fall apart because we turned our backs on them. This isn't just a numbers game, it's our lives." The crowd erupted with cheers of agreement. Clara felt a surge of power. This was becoming bigger than her. They were all in this together, breaking down the walls that had kept them apart for so long. Faced with this growing rebellion, the owner's expression darkened. "This isn't how business is done," he snapped, but even his voice wobbled with the pressure building within the room. "Then maybe it's time to change how business is done," Clara countered, her voice unwavering. "If we reach out and support our people, we'll find that loyalty is worth far more than any quarterly report." What she didn't expect was for an unexpected silence to envelop the room post her remarks. Memories floated back of good times, when the company thrived together, when laughter echoed through the halls, of the strong bonds they built over shared struggles. Clara locked eyes with the owner again, daring him to show humanity for once. You have the chance to be a leader that people will remember, not just for fiscal policies, but for compassion. Can't you feel this collective heart beating for change? In that deafening quiet, Clara sensed a decisive shift. Could he really be swayed? Would he join their impassioned collective? As doubt tangled with hope, Clara noticed a slight tremor in the owner's usually steady hands. She held her breath, wondering if history would remember him as a man of profit or a champion for those who thought they had none. Just then, the unexpected happened. The boardroom doors swung open, and in walked a group of community leaders, disrupting the tense moment. Their faces were bright with determination, the very people who had once been at the heart of the company's vision. What did their arrival mean for the fight ahead? Clara couldn't help but wonder. Would this alliance turn the tide, or had she unknowingly opened a door to an even greater challenge? In the shifting landscape of emotions and possibilities, the real decision loomed closer than ever. The community leaders strode in with an undeniable energy, their presence breaking the fragile silence like lightning illuminating a dark sky. Clara felt her heart quicken. There was something potent in the air, an overwhelming sense of unity. "Thank you for your time," one of the leaders, a woman with bright red hair and a steely gaze, said as she stepped forward. "We heard there was a chance for a moment of truth here today, and we couldn't let it pass." Clara's spirits lifted as she realized these were not just any leaders, they were the very voices that had championed the community for years, people who had rallied support and encouraged the workers through thick and thin. If anyone could make a difference now, it would be them. "You all know what's at stake," the woman continued, her tone passionate. "This company once stood as a beacon of hope for our families, our friends. And now it seems like it's on the precipice. We need to decide together. Will we turn our backs on what really matters?" The owner's brows furrowed, glancing at each other in uncertainty. The room echoed with murmurs of agreement from the board members, but Clara could hardly hear them over the pounding of her heart. "We're here not to fight but to remind you of what you stand to lose," another leader spoke, his voice low yet powerful. "To remind you that this isn't just a numbers game. This is about lives, real lives." Clara felt the walls around her pulse with recognition as memories flooded her mind, children playing in the community parks built with company resources, families growing stronger from the support the company provided. It had been a safe harbor where values thrived. "Can't you see?" she said, propelled by a newfound energy. "This moment can redefine everything. For you as business owners, it's an opportunity to build a future that your children will be proud of." The owner's gaze wavered, and for the first time, doubt clung to his expression. Clara seized that hesitation like a lifeline. "What legacy do you want to leave behind?" she pressed on, her voice steady. "Will it be one of empty chairs and closed doors, or will it be a legacy that cherishes the spirit of community?" Jack, who had been standing near the back, stepped forward to echo Clara's sentiments. "Don't let fear bind us to the past. Instead, let hope propel us toward a future that takes care of one another." His words rippled through the crowd, igniting a spark of rebellion. Clara could see people straightening up, eyes bright with determination. They were ready for this fight. Just as the momentum seemed to billow, a phone beeped loudly, cutting through the intense atmosphere. The owner, visibly shaken, pulled out his device, glancing at the screen, his expression shifted from contemplation to concern. What was happening? "Excuse me," he mumbled, stepping away to take the call. Clara watched him go, her heart sinking a little. What if he was called away at this crucial moment? What if everything slipped through her fingers? While the room buzzed with speculation, Clara leaned into the momentum they had built. "We have to keep this fire alive," she urged. "Let's make our voices louder than fear. We can't let distractions or uncertainty snuff out our dreams today." As she spoke, Clara felt a tremble beneath her enthusiasm, an anxiety creeping in. But there was no turning back now. She looked out at the faces around her, seeing the hope reflected in their eyes. They had to keep moving forward. What would the owner decide once he returned? Would he realize the power of the people in that room? As the faint sounds of his conversation drifted back to the gathering, she wondered if this was the moment that could not only change a company, but change lives forever. With every heart in the room united, the question hung in the air: were they strong enough to seize this moment, or would hesitation shroud their dreams once again? The murmurs settled into a tense silence as everyone turned their focus back to the front of the room, where the phone call seemed to stretch for eternity. Clara felt as if the seconds were ticking by like hours. Did this moment really hinge on one conversation? The thought gnawed at her, but she couldn't let it show. "Let us channel our energy," she said, hoping to break the charged silence. "Think of everything we've built together. This isn't just about a company, it's about our families, our futures." There was a stir among the crowd, a subtle nodding of heads as people exchanged glances filled with resolve. The owner finally returned, tension etched on his face. Clara could see something had shifted in him, as though the weight of what he had heard loomed visibly in his presence. He glanced at the leaders, then at the audience, and Clara felt the air grow thicker with anticipation. Taking a deep breath, he began, "You're more right than you might know. This company is facing challenges, and I won't lie, there have been conversations that could change everything." His voice trembled slightly, and Clara's heart raced. "Change isn't easy," he continued. "But I believe in what this company has done for our community. I want this place to thrive, not just for the sake of profits but for the families that depend on it." There it was, a crack of vulnerability. Clara felt the energy shift again, like a gust of wind dispersing the clouds. One of the leaders stepped forward. "What will it take for you to put the community first? We're here, ready to work with you, to rally support." Her eyes sparkled with hope. But the owner hesitated, the storm of internal conflict evident on his face. "It requires sacrifices. It means letting go of some of the plans that were already in place." "Sacrifices can lead to growth," Jack said, stepping closer. "Easier said than done, but necessary. What are you willing to risk for the betterment of everyone?" The room buzzed again, but now it felt different. Clara could see heads nodding in agreement, hearts drawing together in a rhythm of solidarity. They were finding a voice, amplifying each other's dreams and fears. "I want to create a fund," the owner finally said, the words spilling from him as if they were heavy stones lifted from his shoulders. "A way to support our community projects, to bring back the facilities that have been shut down. It won't be easy, but I'm willing to fight alongside all of you." Cheers erupted, rippling through the audience like waves of joy lapping at the shore. Clara could hardly believe it, they were on the brink of something wondrous. But just as excitement surged, she felt a prick of doubt. "What does that really mean?" she questioned, pushing further. "We need actionable steps, a timeline. Talk is just the start." The owner winced, the fire in his eyes dimming a fraction. "You're right. I need to bring this to the board. It won't be an easy ride, but I promise to take this back with me. Then let us make sure you know you have support behind you." Clara rallied. "We'll be your strength. This is bigger than any one person, it's all of us." As plans began to emerge from the discussion, Clara felt a flicker of hope ignite in her heart. But just as she caught a breath of relief, her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message illuminated the screen, and her stomach dropped. It was from her mother, urgent and encrypted with worry. "We need to talk about your brother." In that moment, as the room pulsed with potential, Clara sensed that another storm was brewing, one that could tug her away from the fight they'd just embarked on. Would she be forced to choose between her family and the community she'd fought so hard to uplift? The question lingered, leaving a shadow on the day that had just begun to shine. How far would Clara go to protect the ones she loved? Would she have the strength to juggle both worlds? Clara stood frozen, her heart racing. The buzzing phone felt like a weight against her chest. She had finally found hope, a chance to fight for a future not just for herself but for countless others. But now, the shadows of her family were beckoning her back. As the boardroom blurred around her, she couldn't ignore the urgency in her mother's message. "What's happening with my brother?" she whispered to Jack, who stood beside her, his eyes reflecting concern. "Focus on this," Jack said gently, his voice full of encouragement. "You're making a difference here." But Clara felt torn. The clarity she once held began to waver under the pressure of her family's need. Taking a breath, she turned back to the crowd-gathered community leaders, the board members, and Jack, all staring at her, waiting for her cue. The momentum had built to a crescendo, but now her heart felt like it was caught in a net of family obligations. "Can you give me a moment?" Clara asked, stepping aside, the noise of the board quieting as she tried to gather her thoughts. She needed to decide where her loyalty lay. Glancing at Jack, she saw him nod, offering her the space to breathe. Out in the hallway, she scrolled through her mother's messages, her heart drooping. "There's trouble at home," her mother wrote. "Your brother, he needs your help." The weight of her family's trials was no less pressing than the battle she waged in the boardroom. Clara swallowed hard, her hands trembling against the cool glass of the wall. She finally replied, "I'm coming home. I need to know what's wrong." Fear gripped her heart for her brother, but an even deeper one loomed over the community she had strived so hard to uplift. Could she abandon it now? She took a moment to breathe, grounding herself. The fight she had started mattered more than just her journey, it had blossomed into a collective movement. A chorus of voices now echoed in her mind, the community she had come to fight for. But could she really balance it with her loyalty to family? Taking one last deep breath, Clara turned back towards the boardroom. As she stepped inside, the crowd's energy pulsed, electric with hope and anticipation. But the sight of the owner, now looking eager and touched by their resolve, filled her with courage. "I have something to say," Clara declared, her voice steady and resolute. "I have to care for my family too. But I will not abandon the fight for this community or for my daughter's future. This is what brings us together, the love for our families and our desire to see them flourish." Jack smiled, pride beaming in his eyes. His encouragement brought warmth back to her chest. The murmurs calmed. The owner nodded, understanding now that Clara was not just a cleaner but a beacon of hope, a bridge between two worlds. "You've reminded us of our purpose," he said softly. "Let us make this partnership not just about profit, but about people, a future where we support each other." Energized, Clara felt the room vibrate with renewed energy, hope radiating through every heart present. "Then let us take action, starting today. We need a timeline, and we need to get our community involved." As discussions resumed with vigor, Clara realized that her fight was no longer just an individual battle, it had evolved into a movement. They outlined actionable plans to push forward, offering scholarships and support for families in need. Each voice chimed into the conversation, adding layers of possibilities and plans for outreach. Hope blossomed as the leaders pledged to work together. Stepping back, Clara felt the burdens shift off her shoulders. But she remained aware of her brother's situation lurking in the back of her mind. The energy in the boardroom was palpable, filled with determination, yet she knew she couldn't ignore her family forever. Once the meeting concluded, she sat beside Jack. "Thank you for believing in me," she said, her voice softening. "But I have to check on my brother. Can we keep this momentum going without me?" Jack nodded, his eyes warm with respect. "We can and we will. Go take care of your family. We'll hold the fort down here." Clara stood up, heart swelling with gratitude. She felt whole. Leaving the office building, she had helped ignite a fire in the community, creating a legacy that honored the past while embracing the future. The path before her was no longer just for herself, but for everyone who longed for hope and justice. As she stepped outside, the wind tangled through her hair. The sun shone brightly, a reminder of the futures they were building together. And no matter where her journey led her next, Clara knew that some battles were worth fighting, for both family and community would always find their way home. Clara's phone buzzed fiercely in her pocket. It was time to face her brother, but she walked towards her future, ready to share the strength she had found, with families longing for a better tomorrow, this is the moment. You need to subscribe now to our channel, so you don't miss thrilling stories like this one. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and boost our efforts. Comment your reactions and feelings about Clara's transformation. Let us talk. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need this kind of inspiration. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Let us continue this journey together.